So we're joined by the team today to talk about energy in the AM. Like, this is one of the most consistent questions that we've had this week. Feeling tired in the morning, is it normal at the moment? Is it normal in winter? Is it something we should be expecting? Or are there strategies that we can use to get over this fatigue in the morning that might be stopping you from training right now? So a couple of the things that came up was the potential for lower motivation levels during lockdown, the circadian rhythm, and caffeine intake. I think the easiest one here to address is caffeine intake. Like, how much caffeine should we be having, and why might that be impacting the way we feel when we wake up in the morning?
In terms of the quantity of caffeine, it depends a bit obviously on your body size, and everybody metabolizes it a little bit differently. But if you're having more than a couple of hundred mgs per day, then you probably need to reassess. And then also the timing of the caffeine is really important. So caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 6 hours or so, which means that if you had, for example, 100 milligrams, in 5 to 6 hours, you're still going to have 50 milligrams in your system. So even if you aren't feeling like you're buzzed and your heart rate's up and that sort of thing, chances are you've still got enough caffeine in your system to be disrupting the sleep patterns. So that might be preventing you from getting quality sleep, which then may have that knock-on effect of making you feel tired in the morning.
So are you suggesting that maybe there should just be a general cutoff for what time we have that caffeine?
Yeah, definitely. I think, look, if you can stick to just having caffeine in the morning rather than dragging on into midday in the afternoon, I think it's going to be beneficial for you from a sleep pattern perspective.
Okay, that's really, really cool. And I guess that also feeds into some of the things that we're talking about when it links to like the circadian rhythm. So I'm thinking from a client perspective, like circadian rhythm sounds like a really interesting term, but what does that actually mean to us? Jyoti, I'm going to pick on you because you're smiling because you know the answer. I'm going to pick on you.
So the circadian rhythm is basically your body's natural sleep cycle. What time you wake up in the morning, what time you go to bed, but also the different phases of sleep during the night. So you're going to have your deep sleep, you're going to have the phase where you're light sleep, and then the rapid eye movement, where is when your like dreams are being processed. So when it comes to sleep, I guess getting that optimal sleep between, say, 10 p.m. and 2 p.m. is when your body's in a deep state of sleep. So you might notice, like on your sleep tracker, that you get deep sleep in the first part of your night of your sleep. And also that's when melatonin, which is your sleep hormone, increases. So if you're not going to bed, like if you're going to bed after 12 a.m., then you're missing out on some of that deep sleep, which is what you need to, which is like the restorative sleep. And that can obviously impact the rest of your sleep and then energy levels in the morning.
So you're already playing like catch up. Even when you wake up in the morning, you're still in catch up mode with that deep sleep. So in fact, what you've said there is really important, that 10 p.m. till 2 p.m. window. And I know that a lot of people don't go to sleep until 11 or 12 o'clock. So we're potentially talking now about, well, what are the rituals and routines that we've got for bedtime? Like, what time is optimal for going to sleep? We've got to have this bit of a, I think, important discussion, because there's that optimal and practical here. I think optimal for me, I'd love to be in bed by like 9 o'clock, but I know that the kids aren't asleep until like 7:30, 8. Then I've got to eat something, then I've got to get ready and prepare for the next day. So there's that optimal versus practical. What would be the latest time that we can push that to in terms of sleep?
I feel like what Jyoti touched on with the sort of that 11 p.m.ish window, or that 11 p.m. to 12 p.m. at the latest, like if you're asleep by then, it's going to be preferable. Yeah. If you can get asleep before 11 p.m., then fantastic. I think there are always going to be mitigating factors, especially if you've got kids and that sort of thing. But I think also do a proper, honest assessment of what your evening routine is like, and you'll probably find that you've got a bit of time there that can be tucked away for sleep, where you're just scrolling on devices or watching TV or that sort of thing as well. So,
yeah. So are we saying maybe there's just a different way to kind of switch off rather than just, I think the most common thing that I hear when people say they're switching off is they just watch rubbish on TV. I just watch a Netflix series, or I think you mentioned as well, like scrolling through Amazon earlier on, just looking at things you might need to buy. Maybe Chris with the Christmas shopping as well, trying to get all that ticked off on the to-do list. So are there things that we could be doing that might improve sleep quality in terms of habits and rituals instead of watching TV?
I think the best way is to find something that just helps you relax and wind down. It's going to be very individual, but something that's potentially not stimulating. Screens, things like reading, it's going to always be a great one. And I think if you do need that screen time and it is something that is so embedded sort of into your routine that's what helps you relax, it's trying to find options maybe with less blue light involved. So if you can get, often now TVs have got modes, you can get filters for your phones and your devices, or even if it's sort of digging into getting a set of the glasses that can help block it out. But I think the key thing is just finding what works for you and is least stimulating for you personally.
Okay, that's cool. You know what? One of the things that came up for me, I think earlier this week when I was talking to a client, they genuinely only had that time before going to bed to train. And they were worried that might be the thing that's impacting their sleep. So if you can only train at like, say, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, and that's literally the only time you can get that in during the day, maybe you started work early. I mean, a lot of our clients have got, their own clients that are overseas. So they're working with people from New York very early in the morning, and they're working with people on different time zones. So if you can only train late at night, how do you then manage that to still be able to get some of that deep sleep or quality sleep?
I think there's many ways that you could potentially do that. I think it's important to just mention before I go into that when we train, we're in a stress state. So there's two types of nervous systems that kind of we branch from, and it's a stress state and a relaxed state. We ideally want to be in a more relaxed state when we're trying to go to sleep. So I think the best thing, if you can only work out in the evening, is setting aside some time where you can just relax. Maybe you're doing some breathing exercise. If you meditate, that sort of thing. If you can do any kind of breathing exercises, any breathing drills, maybe 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, just trying to de-stress yourself as much as possible. And a good way to track that is your heart rate. So if you've got a good heart rate monitor, and when you're working out, your heart rate is going to elevate. When you go into that post kind of relaxation time period after training, keep an eye on your heart rate, and if it's lowering down, that's ideal. That's what we want. We want to try and get it as kind of as low as possible before we go to sleep, and just trying to switch back into a relaxed state for us to get that quality sleep that we can get.
That's really, really powerful. And that autonomic nervous system, and knowing that it splits off into the two, I think that's really, really cool. And knowing that you can switch from one to the other quite simply, I think that's powerful, man. That's really powerful. You know what? One of the other things that I think crops up here a little bit and crosses over this subject is sleep quality. Like, I know, and I think Stacey, you mentioned earlier, I'm very light in terms of sleep. So if I hear a noise, if I see even the slightest bit of light, I'm impacted. So are there any strategies that we can use for light sleep to improve the quality of our sleep so we've got more energy when we wake up in the morning?
Yeah, so I have always been a really, really light sleeper. The slightest noise will wake me up. So a few years ago now, I started sleeping with soft earphones ear plugs rather. And that's made a huge difference. It's hugely improved how quickly I get to sleep. And it helps me stay asleep as well. So little things like that, even looking at maybe face masks or something to block out light if you can't avoid having light in the room itself. Little things like that. I think the biggest thing is just don't be afraid to use tools and things like that to make things easier for you. Like, don't feel like you just have to try and do it unassisted.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm going to have to try those earphones, but I don't know if that's going to help with Jacob running into the room and telling me about his latest nightmare, which sometimes I just don't think he's had nightmares. I think he just wants a cuddle. But yeah, anyway, 5 years old. I'm living the dream, 5 years old and 2-year-old at home, trying to get sleep with these two. But you know what? I think we've talked a lot about what we can do in terms of preparation for sleep. How about in the morning? Are there any strategies we can use to maybe not wake up so abruptly to a horrible alarm, let's say? Yeah,
I think there's some devices that you can use in terms of an alarm. I think Jyoti was talking about it earlier. It's I forget the name of it, but you can actually get an alarm that slowly kind of represents or resembles the sunrise. So your circadian rhythm will help massively with that as well, because it will release a hormone called cortisol, which wakes our body up. And that if you have, that lamp, it will help massively with kind of setting your internal clock and making you feel more energized in the morning.
That's cool. So I've got the Lumi lamp, which does that, and it's a really cool little device. And again, I think, Stacey, you've got an app on your phone which is it's similar but slightly different. But again, it plays like that rainfall kind of noise to wake up. What's the app that you've got?
I will post it in the Facebook chat. I'll check what it's called. But yeah, basically, if I set my alarm for 6 a.m., for example, from about 5:45, it'll start gradually turning the torch on, and it will start gradually producing whatever noise you choose. So I've got it like bird song. So it really builds it up, so it's barely audible at first. So you wake up very gradually as it gets louder and brighter.
That's powerful. One of the other things that I find really, really powerful for in the morning, if you know that you need to get up and train, if you need to get up and get things done, and you know that you always struggle with energy first thing in the morning, I think it's really powerful to set that up the night before. So have the intentions in place. Like, don't leave things up to chance. Like, we want to remove those barriers to success. So know what training session you're going to do, know what action you're going to take, know what clothes you're going to wear, know what equipment you might need available to you. Just get all these kind of barriers out the way, set them all up for yourself. So you're literally having to get yourself up in the morning and get out. I think one of the other things with the alarm as well is if you want to be really risky, like I've got the family here, but put the phone alarm outside your room. So as soon as it gets up, starts going, you don't want to wake the rest of the family up. You're going to get in a lot of trouble for waking the rest of the family up. So you've got to get up. And once you're up, you stay up. You don't get back into bed. You don't press that snooze button. I think that's really, really helpful. And one of our clients, like, he's really into his tech, but he set his alarm up to link to his lights. I don't know how he did it, but his lights came on, like gradually starts coming on in line with his phone alarm, which is just another level. I would never start recommending that because I don't want to start getting involved in people's electrics. But again, there's always a strategy. There's always a solution. But I think the number one thing here is if you are struggling with that, reach out and have the chat, have some communication around it. Because as you can see, there's a million different strategies that we could be looking at. And it might be that you've got the perfect sleep routine as it is, but maybe you just haven't mastered the morning routine. Maybe you haven't got a strategy for that. But guys, I think this has been super helpful, and I'm really, really appreciative of all the solutions that you put forward here. And anybody that's watching this as well, if you're hearing something that resonates with you, if you've got any further questions, or maybe you want some links to some of the devices that we've talked about today, feel free to reach out, drop questions in the comments below, and message us directly. We're always more than happy to help. But I hope that helps, and we'll catch you soon. We'll catch you next week. Thank you.